Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reach Out podcast. Welcome back. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in once again and working on a professional development journey, taking the time to listen to me because I just want to help you guys, throughout the episodes with the guests alongside this new thing that I'm trying to do, which is episodes by myself, just sharing a little bit more of the things that I've learned through the conversations that I've had with different professionals, executives, recruiters, and whatnot. I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. You'll thank yourself later whenever you land that cool role or whenever you have a really cool interview and you think back on the things that you've learned throughout the episodes that I put out. And just that thought makes me really, really happy. Today, we're going to talk about finding the right company fit. Not just landing any job when you're searching for internships or a full-time role, I'll tell you right now, like when I apply for full-time roles right now, there's moments where I think, it's easy if I just do more applications and more applications and more applications, and the more the better, But I'm here to flip that idea. Instead, I want you to imagine if you could match with a company where you'd actually thrive, somewhere that gets you and values what you bring to the table. So let's be real for a second. Nobody wants to feel out of place at work. So we're gonna dive into some really cool examples of some major companies like Google, Deloitte, McKinsey and Co. So you can understand how these companies test for culture fit in very creative ways, in ways that it might be happening in real time and you don't even notice, So by understanding these examples, you'll have a major edge in targeting the right companies and applying with intention. Before we start, like every other episode, please follow me on Instagram, at reachoutpodcast, on TikTok as well. Share this episode with everyone that you might think might find this useful. Our goal is always to get as more people listen as possible, help as much students as we can. And with that said, let's dive in. So I'm going to give you guys a number to keep in mind. And this is real. It's a real stat. Over 80% of companies value cultural fit just as much as skills whenever they're hiring. So they want you to be a match for not only on the technical side, with the skill side, but also with their vibe and with their values, just as much as they want you to succeed on the technical side. So if you're just spraying and praying with multiple applications, you might be just wasting your time. Believe me, I've made this mistake. Sometimes I make this mistake. But I want you instead to think about a place that you click with, That's the whole idea of this episode itself. So let's start with one of my favorite companies. I still dream for the day that I'm going to be working at this company. That's Google. So Google does something that is called the problem-solving lunch. So if you have interviewed for Google, or if you know someone that has, or an interviewer, you might hear the term Googliness. And yes, I know it sounds a little funny, but it's a real measurable metric that this company uses to measure, is this candidate fit for our culture? They're looking for people who are collaborative, upbeat, and genuinely curious. And I've heard this rumor, and I say rumor because I don't know how accurate it is, but allegedly after every interview, they have a Googliness, quote unquote, metric from 1 to 10. 10 being, oh, this guy fits with our culture very efficiently. 0 being, we don't really like this guy. His values don't align with ours. And so let's say you apply and you get an interview, First step is done. Great job. So Google, there's this thing that like problem-solving lunch is that this company might invite you out to lunch with potential team members, people that are already working there. And they'll throw in a small problem your way to see how you interact in a very casual setting. You might think at the beginning, hey, this is really cool. I'm in this lunch. I don't have to pay for it. This company took me out with people that I might one day work with. And it's just a very chill, casual setting. However, every single thing counts. This is not just a casual lunch. This is another step of the interview process, another step of the recruitment process. And whenever they throw you the situation, it's not just about solving it, but how you go about it, you know? They might think about, hey, is this guy a team player? Are you a team player? Do you bring positive energy? Can you think out loud with others, you know, in a very casual setting? They're watching all of that in a scenario that at the beginning you might have thought is just an innocent lunch. So what we might learn from this is that Google, this huge, major attractive for people like ourselves, isn't just hiring skills. Isn't just hiring all the coding languages that you have under your belt in your resume. They're hiring personalities. So knowing this, if you're a team player with a curious mindset, you're already halfway there. What I want you to keep in mind throughout all these examples is, do I identify with this? You know, do I identify with some of the techniques, some of the things that this company stand for? Do I stand for the same things? Yes or no? Let's move over to Patagonia. So Patagonia, for those of you who know, is an outdoor clothing store. They do climbing gear, snowboarding gear, you name it. So this company is all about sustainability. They are advocates for sustainability. And Patagonia doesn't just say that they care about the environment. They actually screen for it. That's right. So they ask candidates, let's say you love Patagonia. You're a great snowboarder out in Colorado, and you love doing that. So you apply for a corporate role over there, and you land that interview. They're going to ask you how you can practice environmental responsibility in your own life. So that could be anything from recycling to supporting local eco initiatives. So again, you might think that all these corporate roles, they just scream for the same items, they just scream for the same skills, and they just prioritize the technicality of your resume. However, when it comes to interview time, I freaking love interviews. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's a very limited window for you to showcase everything that you stand for and the type of person that you are and your soft skills. You know, I did an episode, if you haven't checked that out, it's the importance of soft skills with Tony Wen. Tony Wen, shout out Tony. He's now working at Deloitte. Great guy. Something that I always admired of Tony is how approachable he was. You know, and you can see right now, if you look up Tony on LinkedIn, or if you have him on any social media, you can see that he's thriving. And the reason why I believe he thrives is because, again, his people skills are unmatched. So that's what I mean when I say try to find the middle ground on what you stand for and what the company stands for. You know, for Patagonia, it's all about finding the people who are just as passionate about protecting the planet as they are. So if that's something that you value, then this company's culture will feel like home. And this is only something that you can see or portray during interview time or during any actual interactions that you have with the recruiting team. So make those count. Make those count by doing what? By doing your research, you know? Don't just go into an interview with knowing what your resume is and that's it and just call it a day. Know what this company is and what they stand for. This is a very, very important thing. So companies like Patagonia may ask you, what are you doing for the planet in your personal life? You know, it's a very valid question. So they're just not hiring for talent, they're hiring for people who live their values. I want to move on now to one of the most curious examples that I found about this, and that is Zappos. Zappos is a company, an online clothes retailer. And Zappos is very famous for its focus on happiness at work. Now, this company actually pays new hires $2,000 to quit after training. Isn't that crazy? $2,000. They'll hand you the cash, and you just walk away if you're not feeling the culture. Now, you may ask yourself, why do they do this? You know, training itself is really, really expensive for a company. Well, this company wants people who are truly committed. They want to make sure that you're there for more than just a paycheck. So if you know about this ahead of time, which you already know because you're watching the Reach Out podcast, which you already win on your book, then you can go on with confidence, showing them that you're there because you want to be, not because you need to be. Because let's be real, whenever you land that offer, if you land an offer, congrats. But don't lie to me. The first thing that you look at is your salary. We all do it. It's fine if you do it. However, it's important to test if and evaluate if do you align with this company. Are you going to be happy working for this company? And a company like Zappos really makes sure that you evaluate that. You know, this company actually pays people to quit because they want to make sure that you're there for the culture, not just for the paycheck. Let's talk about a fan favorite, Deloitte. You know, if you're from Houston or University of Houston, you definitely know someone that works at Deloitte that you used to study with. I can tell you right now, I can think off the top of my head of 6 different people, some of my friends that graduated that now work at Deloitte. Now, at first I thought, how come all these people that are different from each other, different backgrounds, different skills, end up in the same company? This just has to be the most generic place for new hires with a good salary, you know, a very generic kind of role as consultant, where you get to tap in a lot of industries. And it's true, you get to tap in a lot of industries. However, if there's something about Deloitte, is that they're big on diversity and inclusion. So much so that they'll ask candidates of stories of how they've created inclusive environments. The key word here is inclusive. Now, this could be about working with people from different backgrounds or handling a situation where you've helped bring everyone together. Now, I'll tell you this, a little story. Middle of recruiting season, a couple weeks ago, I decided to have a little fun during my recruiting season, replicate a little bit of what I did last year before I created the podcast. And especially the reason why I created the podcast was because of some informational interviews. And this is a term that Dr. Jamie Berlin at University of Houston taught us as a very innocent and unharmful approach towards networking. And use that terminology on your cold approaches through LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best thing that has ever happened to me. However, I started doing those again, informational interviews, just reaching out to people on companies that I would love to work for. And ask them for 15, 20 minutes of their time so I can do a virtual informational interview. I spoke to 2 people from Deloitte last week. And if there's something that I could see was common ground from both of them, and they really reassured me that is something that Deloitte really pushes for its employees, is the inclusion and their leadership and their teamwork. Teamwork is a big thing, and I remember I spoke with, I'm not going to say his name for respect out of him, but he told me how they really push for putting its employees in uncomfortable situations where they are forced to teamwork, you know? And this guy was an engineer, and he told me how he struggled with that at the beginning because in engineering school, there's not a lot of teamwork. You know, it's very individual work. And whenever he got that job, he was very excited, but he didn't really foresaw that his job was going to push out teamwork as much as they did. And that helped him in a lot of skill development, you know, storytelling, communications, but also inclusive leadership, you know. And if you are someone that is easy to talk to, that communicates well, and it's easy for you to talk to strangers or just flow out your ideas and not that shy, Deloitte might be the place for you, my guy. So Deloitte's culture is all about working with different perspectives and making everyone feel valued. So knowing this, you know, you can bring this up, these stories, these anecdotes that you're already thinking about as I'm mentioning it. You can bring them up in an interview because I promise you that's exactly what they want to hear. Because you see, Deloitte wants leaders who make everyone feel valued. Let me say that again. Deloitte wants leaders who make everyone feel valued. They're not just hiring consultants, they're hiring inclusive leaders who get the big picture. Now, finally, I'm gonna go to the last example. McKinsey & Co. McKinsey & Co., we all know it, also a fan favorite if you're a consultant. They're looking for people who can drive impact plain and simple. In interviews, McKinsey & Co. is going to ask you to describe times when you influenced others to take actions, especially in tough situations. They're looking for people who can make a difference no matter the challenge. Now, especially with McKinsey & Co., I believe that painting the picture and coming up with a story and especially controlling the narrative is something that I would consider strong points if you're considering applying or if you're already in the interview process. I'll tell you a very funny story about McKinsey & Co. So I remember McKinsey & Co. came to campus to do kind of like this presentation for sophomores. And there's these two guys from the company. They were explaining what the company does and whatever, and kind of like their day-to-day. And they sound a little too robotic, if that's the right word to use. And I remember they were asking all this kind of, like the students in the crowd were asking this very easy questions, I would say. And I say easy because it was like just fluff questions. When it was time to ask my question, I asked both of them, hey, what is the worst thing about working in McKinsey & Co.? What is the worst thing about working in McKinsey? That's what I asked to the workers. And they said, one of them froze. One of them absolutely was like, I don't know. Like, he didn't want to answer. He shoved it up to the other guy. I don't remember quite what he said. No, I don't remember, actually. I just remembered. He said that it was kind of like the long hours. Summarized, it was the long hours that the work requires. However, he explained it and vocalized it in such a way that I was focused more on the commitment for a client and the commitment to solving a problem. That's what I took away from it, which in reality, you can just say, oh, they overwork those people like crazy. But his way of narrating an answer to my question, which is, what is the worst thing about your job, made me thought about a positive thing about his job. That's a skill that is hard to acquire. And if you think you're good for that, if you think you align with those skills that the company like McKinsey & Co. needs, then it is important for you to evaluate that and tweak your search towards those companies that you align with, you know? So there you have it, you know, bunch of companies, each with an unique way of finding candidates who match their culture. You know, Deloitte, Google, McKinsey, Patagonia, Zappos. All of these are just a very few examples of how you have to ask yourself, is this really what I want? Is this really a scenario that I can see myself enjoying? Are their values aligning to my values? So don't just apply to apply. Please don't just apply to apply. Find a place where you fit. Your vibe matters just as much as your skills. Choose a company that matches who you are, and the right job will feel like the right place. If you enjoyed this episode of the Reach Out Podcast, please, please, please share it on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, whatever, LinkedIn, whatever you want, please share it. Don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. LinkedIn is just my name. Instagram at the Reach Out Podcast. I'll make sure to hear your thoughts, questions. If you want me to bring someone as a guest, please let me know. And with that said, please don't ever forget to reach out. It's not about the things that you can get from others, but it's about building real connections with people. So, yeah, see you on the next one.